William Wells appeared in court today for the first time since he filed paperwork saying that he wanted to plead guilty. The so-called monster of Mayport faces the death penalty for allegedly murdering a fellow inmate at a Florida state prison in July. He was already serving 7 life sentences for the mass murder of his wife and 4 others at his Mayport trailer in 2003 and for murdering another inmate in 2011. In a series of written communications with First Coast News, Wells has said that he will continue to kill until he receives the death penalty. On your sides, Ann Schindler has been following this very closely. She joins us now from Bradford County to catch us up on today's developments. Ann.
Well, Katie, the mood inside the second floor courtroom this morning was quiet but tense. I counted 19 uniformed law enforcement officers along with a few in plain clothes. I asked one of the officers. They said that heavy police presence was due to the defendant himself, who has been accused of killing 2 people already while in custody. Now, William Wells entered the courtroom today looking gaunt but calm. Wells previously said he wanted to represent himself and had filed paperwork to enter a plea of guilty. Today, however, he said he wanted Judge Mark Mosley to appoint a public defender with the Office of Regional Conflict Counsel. That attorney said he's going to retract the paperwork Wells filed, saying he would plead guilty. He also waived Wells' demand for a speedy trial. He said he planned to litigate the case fully. State Attorney Bill Cervone said that could push the trial date back as much as a year. I spoke to Cervone following court today and asked him if such a heavy police presence at the small county courthouse was typical.
Well, not for an ordinary defendant, no. But it's not unusual for a case of this sort involving defendants with this background. Well, I think anytime you have inmates such as Wells and Boatman, that there are legitimate security concerns by both the prison staff and the local jail staff that have to transport them, and that's why there was a significant law enforcement presence.
Now, the judge had asked Wells to undergo a psychiatric examination, but that was when he was representing himself. Now that he has a lawyer, the judge rescinded that order as well, too. Live at the Bradford County Courthouse in Stark, Ann Schindler, First Coast News, on your side.